Look, if you're waiting for the B-21 to start dropping bombs to know the next global conflict has started, you've already lost. You're looking for fire. You're looking for the kind of war we fought in the 20th century. I need you to forget all of that. I've spent weeks tracking flight logs out of the Mojave and talking to guys who have spent their entire lives in the black engineering world of Northrop Grumman. According to my sources, something happened last Tuesday that the mainstream media completely missed. Across a massive geographic corridor, from the Baltics to the South China Sea, early warning radar stations experienced a simultaneous, unexplained anomaly. In about 4 seconds, some of the most sophisticated air defense networks on the planet just rebooted. The screens in those bunkers flickered, the signal-to-noise ratio inverted, and the systems went into a hard protective reset. The official story? A solar flare. In my opinion, that is the most insulting cover story I've ever heard. Solar flares don't target specific high-value S-400 batteries while leaving civilian air traffic control untouched. What happened wasn't weather, it was a live fire test. And they didn't use a missile, they used silence. I'm James. Welcome back to The Hidden Muster. Today, we are looking at a terrifying reality of what the B-21 RAIDER actually is. We're talking about plasma actuators, electromagnetic vacuuming, and the mission that just proved the United States has the ability to mute the planet. Let's address the biggest misconception. When people say stealth, they think of a cloak, the F-111 or the B-2. Those planes used hard angles and radar-absorbent material, RAM, to bounce waves away. It was a great trick for 1991, but according to the data I'm seeing, that old way of doing stealth is dead. Peer-level adversaries now use multi-static, networked arrays. They look for the hole in background radiation. If you fly a B-2 over a modern system today, they will see it. The Pentagon knows this. So when they built the B-21 RAIDER, they didn't just build a stealth bomber. In my opinion, they built an atmospheric manipulation engine. To understand the global mute, we have to look at the radar range equation. PR equals PT GT GR lambda squared sigma over 4 pi cubed times r to the fourth. Engineers have been obsessed with sigma, the radar cross-section. How small can we make the plane look? But the B-21 doesn't just shrink sigma, it aggressively manipulates lambda, the wavelength, and suffocates PR, the power received back at the enemy station. It does this through plasma actuators. The skin of the B-21 is designed to harbor a controlled plasma field. By running high-voltage current across the wings, the B-21 ionizes the air around it. Plasma is a soup of free electrons that loves to eat electromagnetic radiation. When a radar wave hits that plasma field, it doesn't just bounce off. Its energy is consumed and converted into microscopic amounts of heat. The radar wave is essentially deleted. But that's just the defensive side. What happened last Tuesday was the weaponization of this capability. The B-21 doesn't fly alone. It operates as a flying server farm connected to a swarm of autonomous drones. When this formation enters contested airspace, the B-21 uses its gallium nitride arrays. But it doesn't jam. Jamming is loud. It's the electronic equivalent of kicking down a door. The B-21 uses phase cancellation. It's the equivalent of slipping the lock and removing the security cameras while the guard is watching. The RAIDER reads the exact frequency and pulse of the enemy radar. In microseconds, its computers generate a duplicate wave that is exactly 180 degrees out of phase, perfectly inverted. It fires that wave back. When the two waves meet, they mathematically cancel each other out. The energy is nullified. According to my sources, the RAIDER projects this field over thousands of square miles. This is the global mute. Imagine being an air defense commander. Your screen is full of green tracks. Suddenly, without a single alarm, the screen goes perfectly blank. Your computer registers a vacuum. It assumes the hardware has failed and executes an emergency reboot.
In my opinion, the psychological terror of this is the real weapon. It shatters the OTA loop. If your grid shuts down for 45 seconds and then comes back as if nothing happened, what do? You don't know if a bomber just flew through or if it was a software glitch. You ground your fleet out of fear. The B-21 wins without firing a shot. This is the ultimate economic weapon. China has spent an estimated $300 billion on its anti-access/area denial A2AD bubble, artificial islands and layered missile batteries designed to keep American carriers away. They built an impenetrable wall of sensors. Then, Northrop Grumman walks in with a $700 million laptop that turns the wall into a mirror. By dissolving that bubble, the B-21 renders a $300 billion investment moot. In my opinion, that is the most devastating economic strike in military history. Once the Raider initiates a mute, what does it do over the target? Everyone talks about nukes or bunker busters, but those are legacy weapons. The Raider generates significantly more electrical power than the B-2. Why? Because its primary weapon is directed energy and high-powered microwave emitters. According to my sources, it can execute localized EMP strikes without a nuclear detonation. Imagine a column of tanks. The B-21 pulses them with a microwave beam. The tanks don't explode, and the crews aren't hurt, but every circuit board and targeting sensor is instantly fried. You now have 60-ton steel coffins that cannot move or shoot. They have been surgically uninstalled from the battlefield. Once the Raider initiates a mute, what does it do over the target? Everyone talks about nukes or bunker busters, but those are legacy weapons. The Raider generates significantly more electrical power than the B-2. Why? Because its primary weapon is directed energy and HPM emitters. According to my sources, it can execute localized EMP strikes without a nuclear detonation. Imagine a column of tanks. The B-21 pulses them with a microwave beam. The tanks don't explode and the crews aren't hurt, but every circuit board and targeting sensor is instantly fried. You now have 60-ton steel coffins that cannot move or shoot. They have been surgically uninstalled from the battlefield.
Engineers will ask, if it's generating all that power, wouldn't it glow on infrared? Not the B-21. It uses its own fuel as a massive heat sink. Before the fuel is burned, it is routed through microchannels in the fuselage to absorb heat from the electronics. Then the engine exhaust is mixed with freezing ambient air before it ever leaves the wing. To an infrared sensor, the B-21 is a corpse. It's electronically loud but thermally invisible. When those radars rebooted last Tuesday, the B-21 loitered. It used the mute to kick over an anthill. While the enemy scrambled, the Raiders soaked up every piece of electronic intelligence. It used terahertz sensor to look through the roofs of the bunkers. At those frequencies, waves penetrate non-conductive materials. The pilots weren't looking at blitz, they were looking at X-ray style live feeds of the commanders pacing inside their command centers. They mapped the network, proved they could blind the grid, and then flew home. What happened last Tuesday was a demonstration. The US Air Force wanted certain people to know they hold the master switch. In my opinion, we are living in a grace period. Adversaries are scrambling to build quantum radars, but they are a decade behind. And in electronic warfare, that's the same as fighting with muskets against machine guns. The next time you look at the sky, realize the real war is being fought in the invisible frequencies. The B-21 is up there right now, waiting in silence. The era of hiding is over. The era of the global mute has begun. I'm James. Question everything you see on the screen, because if the Raider is doing its job, the screen is already lying to you. The Hidden Musters signing off.